My name is Stephen Taylor. I'm the artist marketing coordinator here at Fender Nashville. We are very excited to be back at Summer Namm. Thank you for joining us. It really is a pleasure to introduce this gentleman here. He is an amazing person, an amazing guitar player. Joined Steve Perry's band at the ripe old age of 19 years old, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah. He moved to Nashville where he worked as a studio and session player, mixing engineer. Was on the road with Michael W. Smith, among many others. And then he was called to the West Coast to pursue ministry and a solo career in Christian music. And we are really thrilled to announce the release of his artist signature series, Stratocaster. Help me welcome Mr. Lincoln Brewster.
Thank you, guys. This is a huge thrill and honor. Thanks for coming out and checking this out. Hopefully everybody will get a chance to play this after we're done here, but it's good stuff.
You should play it. I want one too. So,
yes.
Yeah. Well, man, I know music has been in your life virtually from the beginning. How did it start for you?
So I grew up in a little fishing town called Homer, Alaska. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Alaska, but or the Deadliest Catch TV shows. Anybody heard of that? My family was on that show, the Hill Strands, and so I grew up the youngest of 8 kids in a very dysfunctional, crazy home. And music was the thing that I turned to as kind of my escape. And so rather than developing tons of bad habits with partying and whatnot, it was me in my bedroom with the guitar.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
So was the guitar the first instrument, or what was the beginning?
No, I actually started on the mandolin.
Yeah.
So I think Nashville's probably apropos for this. My mom got me started. My mom's a fantastic singer-songwriter, and she got me started on mandolin. I ended up, we had a duo together when I was just a little guy, and we used to play for cruise ships that would come to town, and I learned how to play behind my head, so that was a big hit with the tourist folks.
Mandolin behind the head. Huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
We used to call all the tourists, this is probably too much information, we used to call tourists pukers. Because they would all get seasick, and we were all so that was
good.
Yeah,
That's good. So was there a particular guitarist or a record that made you say, like, that's it, that's what I want to do?
Well, I had this like epic moment. I'll never forget it. I was playing mandolin, but I found like I just wanted something a little extra. And I don't know if you've ever played a mandolin and had that experience, but a friend of ours brought over an electric guitar amp. And my mandolin had a pickup, and it was like the scene out of Back to the Future. This really happened. They brought the amp over, and I plugged my mandolin into the amp and turned it all the way up. And I hit this chord, and there was only one chord on the mandolin that kind of sounded like a guitar, and it almost blew me out the door. And I just remember I got to do more of that. So after that, it was, Mom, can I please get a guitar?
Rock and roll mandolin.
That's right.
That's pretty sweet.
That's right. But I couldn't, you can't just do the same kind of stuff. At least I can't on a mandolin.
Yeah.
Guitar's way bendier.
It is bendier, especially with the whammy bar.
It's just, yeah.
Cool.
Does anybody know of a mandolin with a whammy? There shouldn't be. Don't get any ideas. Do not invent that. No one's asking for that. I'm just curious.
There you go. Well, man, so now we're here, and you have certainly become the guy with the gold Strat, and I would love to share with everybody how that started. Where did you first find the gold Strat, and what brought us to this, where we are here today?
Yeah, so I actually was looking for a second guitar. I'd had kind of a main Strat for a while, and I was in a music store in Folsom, California, and there was a gold 50s looking Stratocaster sitting in this back room, and I just, it wasn't actually for sale, but I just saw it, and I said, whose guitar is that? And this guy said, oh, that's mine. And I said, oh, would you be willing to sell it? And he said, I guess so. And so he sold me the guitar, and I fell in love with the guitar. It was awesome. I recorded a live album with it. And then that one and this black Strat that I had ended up getting stolen. And I was heartbroken over my guitars. I kind of didn't know what to do, and ended up buying an off-the-shelf Eric Johnson Strat on my way to a gig. and which if you haven't played one of those, they're fantastic. And I kept that guitar for a couple years, and then through a interesting chain of events, I went to a Roland photo shoot, and actually the guy who was taking my pictures right back there, thank you, this wouldn't be happening without going for this guy. And he said, you should meet the guys at Fender. There's a friend of mine, Mike Eldred, over there. And I met Mike. Mike's a great guy, and built me a new gold Strat, which if you've seen the album cover of an album called Today is the Day, and I'm jumping up in the air, that's that guitar. And so that was really kind of the beginning of the relationship with Fender.
And that was a custom shop model,
That was
right?
a custom shop.
Team built?
Team built guitar. And then
from there, how did I know eventually it went to a master build, and
it did,
and that's where we got closest to this model here, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So we did a master built after that, which if you see me play in the last few years, I was probably playing that guitar. That was really, this guitar is based heavily off of that one, and I modified the other one, and so it ended up kind of being an amalgamation of both guitars.
Cool.
But that's kind of where it started, yeah.
That's awesome. So we're going to talk about the specs and everything with the guitar, but before we get into it, I think it's interesting to know if any of the projects that you were playing in, did that prompt the design, or was it more just innately who you are as a player and what you wanted to get out of the instrument?
I think more the latter, yeah. I wanted to, I think just to give you a glimpse inside my mind, I always try to create things that work for lots of people, and I tend to think that I like what lots of people like. I don't know if that's actually true, but I rather than designing a guitar that was my guitar specifically, I wanted to just be a part of making a great guitar that a lot of people would find usable. And so after talking to lots of players over the years and playing in lots of different situations, I'd find a lot of consistencies with, gosh, I wish it had this, or I wish it did that, or and I do have to say, I think many of the Fender guitars, they got it pretty darn close to correct on round one back in the 50s and 60s. But I thought, if I was going to change some things, what would I do?
Yeah.
And so yeah, this really kind of came as a result of years of playing, years of just wishing I could do this or wishing I could do that. Yeah.
That's really cool. So, that's a perfect way to get into this actual instrument. So it's it's really special because you look at it and you see a late 50s Strat, but it really is a lot more than that. So let's kind of talk about that. Let's maybe kind of start on with some of the more vintage spec things. What makes it just a 50s Stratocaster,
Yeah, so fundamentally it's well, I'll start with just the basics, body wood, all that stuff. So all these bodies are ash bodies. They're spec'd as lightweight, so if you notice and you pick it up, you'll go, wow, it's really light. They're all going to be like that. The necks are all quarter sawn maple, and we did the kind of. I'll give you the basic 50 stuff first, and then I'll get into the more trick stuff. The pickups are DiMarzio Virtual Vintage pickups, which I've been playing for many years. Area 61 in the bridge, Area 58 neck and middle. The wiring on this guitar is very similar to an EJ, so rear tone pot is wired to the bridge pickup. The center pickup is not wired to anything, it's wide open. I like that real chimey sound without even a pot resisting it. And then neck pickup basically has a resistor that gives the same load as a 250K pot because there's not a tone pot on the neck pickup. Vintage style tuning pegs, so these just look like regular vintage tuning pegs. They lock. The bridge bent steel saddles, again that vintage look, with the push-pull bar, which is cool. But all that same vintage spec, but it's a 2-post floating trim, so
just like on the American Pro models too. It just pops in. There's an Allen wrench, so you can tighten it. It's really great.
Which is a great thing to have. The spring stuff was always a little tricky for me to get the tension perfectly right. If you get the tension right, but the bar's facing back that way, so this fixes that. So that's kind of where the vintage stuff ends.
Yeah, that's really great. And, I think So the booster circuit that we talked about, when it's off, it's off. It's out of the circuit. It's bypassed.
Yeah. So one more thing on the neck is a soft V, but it's a smaller soft V. So this is based off of the Masterbuilt custom shop that I have. That was hand done by Dennis Galuska, and basically sent that neck in and said, just let's do that neck. So the fretboard radius, rather than being 7 1/4 like a standard vintage, it's 9 1/2 down here, but it's compound radius, so it's 14 at the top. So it has a nice slope to it, but down here when you're chording, you still get that nice kind of body to the neck feel, but it's nice and flat up at the top, so you can bend
for days.
Bend for days.
Just like that mandolin, right?
You can bend farther than you should.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
So let's talk about the electronics for a second. We did some of these things that I've kind of been referring to as stealth mods, and it was really a guitar that's vintage style but modern functionality. Even on the back, it has the heel little cutaway there, so you can get up on the dusty half there. I guess that's a bass player thing. And then when I was telling you that this neck pickup has is it a resistor? Is that right, or is it a small capacitor? That's Stan Cody. He's the genius behind not only all of Fender's pedals, but many of their amps and this circuit. Actually, Stan worked very hard in making this, and he's genius. The idea was, if the pickup's not going to have a pot on it, it needs to sound like it does, because that's part of the beauty of those 250K pots, the way they make pickup sound. So Stan did that, but also he put a booster circuit in this guitar. We did not want it to be visible, noticeable, and we wanted it to be completely true bypass, that if it dies, the guitar still works just fine. So this is a stacked volume pot, and it's a push-pull pot. The battery is actually hidden behind the back plate, so it's routed underneath here, again, just so you can't tell it's there. So you could literally own one of these guitars, not know that that circuit's on there, and it would never affect you, because you wouldn't know you could pull the volume pot up. And then in addition to that, it's basically a 10 dB completely flat boost. And when I talked with Stan about it, I said, ideally, I just want to be able to turn the guitar up from 10 to like 20. I just want more output. I just love the sound of a Strat. And if you want that kind of humbucker-esque feel off this guitar, you can get that by just rolling the tone back a little bit, because it just goes to the bridge, and put this boost on. And I'll demo this for a second, or in a minute. But then we had one extra pot in the middle, which was this middle tone pot that I never use. And I thought, well, we got to make that do something too. So that is this incredibly musical, beautiful sounding mid boost that goes on top of this 10 dB flat boost. So you could argue that at certain frequencies you can get 20 dB of boost with the mid, but it doesn't saturate the entire signal, so it doesn't get muddy or weird. It just makes this very smooth, kind of broadband effect. When I was talking to Stan about it, we played with the frequency of that. We had Stan did a lot. We had a couple versions of it where, when it was all the way up, it sounded a little too like half-cocked wah-wah, and I think sometimes guitar players get features maybe too many, and I call it baby's first flamethrower. It's just not a good idea. We want things that we can't make sound bad. So there's no setting on this guitar that sounds bad. You can dime this mid boost on any of the pickups. Really adds this nice singy character. Anywhere from 0 to 10 sounds great. So those are the features.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
It's I just love that there's so much going on, but at the end of the day, you have just a great looking Stratocaster. Just the fact that the battery is hidden under the back plate, there's no extra compartment, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
It's not overdone.
And if the battery dies, the guitar still works fine. It is not in the circuit at all. So
that's a good thing.
If the battery dies and you pull the pot up, then it will not work. So you'll know. But actually, we made a change on that We haven't talked about that since. When you change the circuit to make the battery life longer, it's amazing. It's like way, way, way longer. Yeah. What's that? 2 years, yeah.
2 years. That's incredible.
The first version of it, I left it plugged in overnight and it was dead. So I was like, Stan, we gotta make the battery last longer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
2 years. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, I know we all want to get to Lincoln to demonstrate this thing, but real quickly, just at Fender, it's a huge priority for us to support artists and artistry, and it's an ongoing conversation. And the artist series is really the pinnacle of that conversation. It's when the artist can come in and have creative control over the products that we offer to the public. So it's we are thrilled to have you here and have your name, and what's it like for you to see this and to see the finished product after so long?
It's surreal. I played my first Fender guitar when I was 9 years old, and which was about 10 years ago, and I don't feel deserving to get an honor like this, but humbly and gladly receive it. And I've said this more and more over the last probably 6 months, but the electric guitar has been a dear friend to me, a really good friend to me over the years. It's given me a great way to express a lot of things in my life, whether they be joy or grief or pain or frustration, and but it's a great tool of expression, and it's just been a tremendous blessing in my life. And so I hope more than anything that when people play this guitar, or that when they get one, I think guitar players inevitably form a bond with their main instrument. Is like a connection that guitar players have. There's something about their guitar, and there's a belief that it's the one. And you're right, it is for you. And so I hope that happens. I hope everybody who plays one of these, it will become yours. And there was a reason even that, I'm really proud to have a signature model guitar. It's a really neat thing. But this was a genuine sentiment, so hear it from the heart. There was a reason that I put my name on the back plate where the neck mounts to the guitar, because I wanted you to be able to change it if you wanted to. I didn't want my name on your guitar in a place you couldn't remove it, because ultimately when you buy one of these, when you get one, it should be your guitar, not mine. Maybe I was the catalyst for it becoming this, but so that's why I put it back there. And so leave it on if you want to, and change it if you want to, and if you change it, put your name on there.
That's cool. Well, we're proud that your name is on that plate there. So, any projects coming up that you're going to be putting out to the world?
I'm working on a Christmas album right now.
That's got to be weird.
Of the summer. It's a little bizarre. Yeah, it's.
You have to decorate the studio or have Christmas tunes playing in the background? Or?
I haven't decorated. That's more my wife's.
Okay.
More my wife's.
There it is. Love it.
We got a little instrumental of that coming out, which is kind of cool. We turned it into drums, bass, guitar trio.
Cool.
That'll be fun, but
that's exciting. And then there's an instrumental record.
Instrumental record is almost finished, and if anybody's been following that, I'm sorry it's taken this long. I didn't have my studio for over a year this last year, but it's literally tracked. I've got a few more solos to put on it, and then we just got to get it mixed. So that one should be. Hate to even give a time frame, but it's almost done. I got to finish the Christmas one first, and then I've got another studio album we'll be working on this fall. That'll be out in May, I believe. And then the instrumental will be finished somewhere in there. We'll figure out where to slot it in. So if you haven't heard the God of the Impossible album, there's on the deluxe, there's one track called Relativity. That's one of the tracks off of there. But Benny Khalid is playing drums, Norm Stockton on the bass. Some fantastic musicians on it, so
that's great, man. I know we're all excited for that. So
yes,
would you play something for us?
Sure. And if anybody's got any questions or requests, I'd be happy to give it a go. Okay, here's that circuit. So you kind of want to hear that. That's just basically the fantastic pedal, by the way. I love the new pedal stand.
The Pugilist.
Brilliant. The Pugilist is an amazing distortion. So that's basically the pedal. And then I'm going to show you the boost circuit. Again, you'll hear it's not out of control. It's just going to give you enough to kind of... throw the mid boost on top there. So that's the boost. Here's without. And here's the mid on top of that. Without touching a pedal. So it's got a lot of flexibility. Yeah. And even on the neck, that boost circuit sounds really cool. Here's the other cool thing: when you hit the boost circuit, it has a treble bleed mod. If you don't know what that is, it's when you turn your volume pot down, it still maintains your top end clarity. So that still works with the boost on. So if you're playing... still kick the boost on. So the boost is on now, it's just the volume's turned way down. So, pretty cool.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Lincoln. We are thrilled to have you here, and thank you for taking the time to come. And thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much.
All right.